If you've ever tried to learn a new language, you know that feeling, right? You can read a menu, maybe you can even write an email, but the second you have to actually speak, everything just freezes. So why is that? Today, let's get into the art and the science of speaking a new language.
First things first, we've got to tackle that big question head-on. Why does speaking feel like the final boss in the language learning game? Well, it turns out there are some very real, very concrete reasons for that.
I mean, if you've ever felt this, just know you are in very, very good company. It's an almost universal feeling for language learners, and for good reason. See, unlike reading or writing, speaking puts you on the spot in a totally unique way.
Okay, let's really break this down. When you're writing, you're working in a visual world. You can take your time, you can edit, you can revise a dozen times. But speaking? It's a whole different animal. It's auditory, it's gone in an instant, and the feedback is immediate. There's just no backspace key in a real-time conversation. So what's the official definition? Well, according to Kathleen M. Bailey, speaking is the productive oral/oral skill. Now that word productive, that's the key. It means you are actively creating language, right there on the fly, to get your meaning across.
To really get a grip on just how complex this is, we kind of have to take it apart. Let's look at the hidden architecture of language, from the tiniest sound all the way up to a full-blown conversation.
This linguistic pyramid is a great way to visualize it. It shows how language is built from the ground up. You've got all these different layers working together at once. The sounds you make, how you form words, the way you structure sentences, and how it all flows together in a conversation. We're going to zoom in on a few of these key pieces. So, at a very basic level, we have the utterance, and Bailey's definition is perfect. It's simply something someone says. This is so important because it reminds us that real speech isn't always made of perfect, polished sentences. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is just a single word, right? Like, pizza? Moving up a level, we get to morphemes. Think of these as the smallest Lego bricks of meaning. You've got free morphemes, like the word hat, it works all on its own, and then you've got bound ones, like the prefix un or the suffix ed, that have to snap onto another piece to make sense. And way up at the top, we've got phonemes, the individual, distinct units of sound. Just think about it. The difference between the P in pit and the B in bit is just one tiny phoneme, but it completely changes the entire meaning of the word. Getting these little sounds right is a massive part of speaking clearly.
Okay, so now we see how incredibly complex speaking is, with all these layers firing at once. So that leads to a huge question. What's the best way to actually practice this stuff? Well, it turns out our ideas on that have changed a lot.
For a long time, the go-to approach was what's called the audiolingual method. This was the old school way. The core idea was that you learn by forming habits through endless repetition. The goal was to drill structures over and over and over until they were perfect to prevent any bad habits from forming. And here's what that actually looked like in a classroom. I mean, listen to how controlled this is. The teacher says a line, students repeat. The teacher corrects one tiny sound, students repeat again. It's all about mimicry, not actual communication. But then, everything changed. A new idea came along called communicative language teaching, and it totally flipped the script. It's built on this revolutionary idea that we don't learn a language in order to communicate, we learn a language by communicating. And this interaction is just a perfect example. Yeah, it's messy, it's a little chaotic, students are making wild guesses, but look at what's really going on. They are actively trying to figure out what something means. They're communicating. This is learning by doing. So this new way of thinking gives us a much, much better framework for how to practice speaking effectively. Whether you're learning yourself or trying to teach someone else, there are some core principles that can really guide the way. This modern approach basically gives us a clear roadmap. Here are 5 key principles for really effective speaking practice. Just take a look. Now, we're going to zoom in on a couple of the ones that are absolute game changers. One of the most important balancing acts is between accuracy and fluency. Think of it like a seesaw. On one side, you have accuracy. That's getting your grammar right, your pronunciation spot on. On the other side, you've got fluency. That's all about speaking with confidence and keeping the conversation moving. You need to practice both. You can't just focus on one.
And then there's this concept that is just so powerful, negotiating for meaning. It sounds technical, but it's just the back and forth of real conversation. It's the, wait, what did you say? Or, so you mean? Or, did that make sense? Those moments of confusion, they aren't failures. They are literally the engine that drives learning. Ultimately, All of this, the building blocks, the teaching methods, all these principles, it's all pointing toward one single, powerful goal for any language learner.
And this right here, this is what it's all about. Just look at this exchange. One learner struggles with a word, another tries to help with the sound, and a third learner jumps in with a different word, topic. And suddenly, boom, understanding. They figured it out together without a teacher directing traffic. And that's the absolute key takeaway. The real goal isn't to just produce perfect sentences like a machine, it's to be able to jump into a real conversation, something that's dynamic, unpredictable, and co-created by everyone involved.
So, that leaves us with one final, very important question to ask ourselves. The next time you practice, think about this. Are you practicing to repeat, or are you practicing to converse?